Hello, everyone. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live Fireside Chat, a conversation with CPAs, transforming accounting leadership, a fireside chat with Carla McCall and Lexy Kessler. Today, we're joined by two distinguished professionals and trailblazers in the CPA profession. Bring them on. Yes, two amazing trailblazers. This is the first time in the AICPA history that two women have held the chair and co-chair positions in the same year. Carla McCall is the vice chair. Carla McCall is the current chair of the AICPA, and Lexy Kessler is our current vice chair. Both are champions for students and professionals in the accounting world. I tell you, their professional journeys are a testament to their commitment to making a difference in our profession and in their communities. Today, they'll be sharing some of the highs and lows of their journeys, including some of the valuable lessons that they've learned and their hopes for today's leaders and the next generation of accountants. I think this conversation is going to resonate with many of you here today, and we hope it will give you some inspiration and guidance in your professional lives. So I want to thank you for joining us today. I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments section, and we hope you enjoyed this fireside chat. So shortly, you'll meet our guests. First, I'm Aruma Hayes, the host for today's event. I'm founder and CEO of Hayes CPA, a New York City minority women-owned business. In addition, I serve on the board of the New York CPAs, and I'm also current chair of the AICPA Private Companies Practice Section Executive Committee. And I am a regional vice president with NABA. About me, I enjoy running. In 2010, a long time ago, I ran the New York City Marathon. I still like to claim that's my claim to fame, to being a runner. So let's get to meet our guests and share a fun fact with us, if you would. I'm Carla McCall.
Yes. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Yes. Thank you. Let's see. Fun fact. I have two kids that are in college, so that's fun. We're college empty nesters. And to unwind, I am a Peloton fanatic. There you go.
Ooh, Peloton. Love it. Love it. Lexy Kessler.
Hello. Fun fact would be I just spent the past 2 hours with my 2-month-old granddaughter, taking her to visit my father and meet him for the first time, his first great-grandchild. So it's been quite an emotional, I'm a little, it was just quite a wonderful experience. And for my stress relief, I love to bake. I get in my zone. I have to focus on what I'm doing, and it forces me to disconnect from everything else. And I absolutely love it.
Awesome. So I have to ask you, what was the last thing that you baked?
Jambalaya last night when my daughter and son-in-law and granddaughter got here. So it was homemade jambalaya.
Yeah. Oh, nice one.
And milk chocolate chip cookies. So.
Nice. Good.
Dessert.
So let's dive a little bit into our discussion. So I want to start off by hearing about your personal journey. Did you guys wake up after, once you were a teenager? Did you know immediately, once you started education that you wanted to become a CPA? Like, what was your pathway into the profession? Lexy, let's start with you.
I wish it was that deliberate. I just got lucky it worked out, I'll be honest. I went to University of Maryland at College Park, and I actually really enjoyed computer science and business. And I thought, well, it'd be fun to combine the two, but I would have to transfer to the campus up in Baltimore. And I didn't want to leave my friends. So I stayed. I dropped the computer science and then was between marketing and accounting, and just wasn't sure I could see myself doing marketing, even though I love doing that. It's a part of my job, a big part of my job. And it was really friends that kept me there. And then I steered towards accounting. And it was also 11th grade, Mrs. Wilson's bookkeeping class in high school that hooked me in, as far as even thinking. I had no idea what it could be or what it was. And it certainly wasn't that class, what I ended up doing. But I think that sometimes it's just a path you take, and you go on it, and it takes you in the right place.
Awesome. We love it. We love it when you get that great 11th grade teacher and they pull you in and they entice you into the profession. That's awesome. Carla, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the influence of a friend who was 2 years older. I think I said this on Calvin's podcast. He ended up being my first husband, but whatever. He was 2 years older than me, went to college to study accounting, and he said, Carla, you have to study accounting because you can make a lot of money. So for me, it was about the money. And I grew up, if you've read my story in the journal, you understand I came from a family of business. My grandmother started an insurance agency in 1948. We had a family business. Anyways, I had that influence, and I did have a high school course, but I have to say that wasn't the driver for me. My goal as a young person was always to make more money than my parents. And when I heard that, that was it. I applied only to business schools and ended up going to Bentley University.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I know you definitely come from a long family, a great family business. And so let's talking about business and talking about your professional career. What was that rejection like? How did you navigate your career um, through the different stages that you went through, and then you finally ended up at your current positions as chair and vice chair? Did you know, sometimes when we go on interviews, right, they always ask us, what's your 5 year or 10 year vision or something of that nature? Like, what was your journey like? That's, to this
I'll start. I mean, it was, I didn't know that I would end up in this position. I was very much head down, climbing the corporate ladder. So my initial goal was to become a partner. I fell in love with the profession because I started my career in a very small firm with a progressive managing partner. So I learned that this business is very much a relationship business early on. And when I was interviewing and people would ask me what my strengths are, my strength was always interpersonal skills, building relationships with other people. And I learned that that's what this profession was. And so I was just sort of heads down. It wasn't until later in my journey, way later. That's why when I talk to students, I talk about this and having them get involved in community service and volunteerism much earlier in their career than I did. That was, basically the reason why I'm sitting in the seat today was I volunteered for the profession in Massachusetts, which got me a seat on AICPA Council, which got me a nomination to the PCPS Executive Board and got me a nomination to the board. But it wasn't just being there. It was my active participation. I'm not afraid to use my voice. I'm very creative. I think creativity is a power skill in leadership, and had a lot to offer. And I think that got me noticed along the way. Same with my managing partner seat, being a managing partner in a top 100 firm. And that was, I've been sitting in a leadership seat here at AAF CPAs since 2011. And it was my ability to be creative and create programs that I thought would improve the culture of the firm and make people happier. And I had that sort of, I could shift between vision and rolling up my sleeves to do it very easily. That's what earned me the managing partner seat. That's very condensed to remain.
I know it's very condensed, right? We only have this. I'm looking at some of your pictures and some of the incredible things that you've done, and it's great. You've obviously led a very electric and had a very vibrant career over the years. So we were not going to get to everything in this 1 hour. We only have 1 hour, but. And I have to say, and I served. You mentioned PCPS Executive Committee.
Yeah.
I served with you. That's my claim to fame with you. And I also served with Lexy. Lexy was actually my immediate chair. I took over from Lexy. So I learned a lot from both of you ladies, and I appreciate your leadership in all you do. But Lexy, I'll throw it over to you.
That's actually how we all met, was through PCPS.
Yeah.
So it's really amazing. But I would say that some of the things that Carla said would be ditto. I wasn't quite as deliberate. I think when I came out of school, I'm still with the same firm that I interviewed with. So I'm proof that on-campus recruiting works, and it can. But it was actually about 4 years trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I went to work for a client for 9 months and came back. And it was the best thing I ever did because it made me realize what I really did enjoy. And when I came back, I was laser focused on a career then. I'm not saying that I wanted to be a partner, because in that time period, a little bit older than Carla, it was just a little bit different for women, and having a family. but I think I kind of trailblazed that because I was not. I think I found an in between, and all of it. This work-life balance stuff. It's all depends on you. It's what do you want? How do you define it? It's not how I define it. It's not how any of us define it. But anyway, just trying to discover that and move that forward, and then not realizing that was leading by example, that people would be able to understand that you can do this then. And I was very fortunate that I had a mentor that was wonderful for me. She had a different work-life balance than I did. But she was the first female managing partner for a major firm in the state of Maryland. And that was trailblazing in and of itself. So she was a great example to me in balancing things and having somebody that's supportive and somebody that really pushed you to the limits from a leadership development perspective. So I'm very fortunate to have had that. And I absolutely agree, get outside of the walls of your firm, your organization, get out and meet people in our profession, get out and learn about what others are doing. We have a very giving profession. We have people that share, we have people that help each other. It's amazing to me how much you spend this time volunteering, but how much I learn and how much I get. And I feel like I can't give enough back. Hey, there we are. Look at that. But anyway, I think it's important to have had the mentors, equally important to be your own advocate. If it's something you're wanting, speak up, say something, let people know this is what you want as well. And then they can always be mentoring and sponsors for you. But it is very important that you be deliberate, that you communicate, and that you're transparent about what your intentions are.
Yeah, I wouldn't come on mute. Yeah, I think that is so on point. It's very important to speak up and to have a goal and to seek guidance and mentorship and sponsorship as well. So talking about mentorship was there a pivotal point in your career that really shaped who you are today as a leader, your leadership style? Was there something that comes to mind? If not, I'll ask you another question. You can put this together. I want to give you a chance to answer that question. Otherwise, I would like to hear. For one thing that I know a lot of professionals struggle with is how to remain authentic in our field, in our jobs, right? Because we always think we need to be pleasing, we need to say yes when everybody's going to go out for a drink, and you don't want to go out, you don't want to spend another night out, just doing stuff and networking. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I do have a pivotal moment that I've talked about that sort of covers both of those things. So I was probably, 2 or 3 years into being a managing partner. So I sat in the seat for a founder transition in 2011. And I was also sort of running a book of business in the process of sort of winding it down. And I was meeting with a manager and going over some sort of review points. And at the end, she goes, "Can I give you some feedback?" And I was like, absolutely. Because I do believe feedback is a gift. I'm always trying to, improve. I have a saying, we're trying to always be better today than we were yesterday, or tomorrow than we were today. And she said, "You are brutal in meetings. People don't want to ask you a question. They don't want to come see you." And I was just, and she gave me this feedback about my body language, my tone in meetings with other people and staff. And that's the first time in my entire career, and that was pretty late in my career, that I took time to self-reflect on myself and who I was as a leader and what I wanted to be. I took time to reflect, how did I even get here? What were the competencies that got me here? And what gets me energized? And it's so funny because I've always told people, like, when your energy is up and your adrenaline is up, try and take time to pause and reflect on why is that? What are you enjoying? Are you working independent in a team? Is it the client? Is it the industry? What is it? And trying to do more of that. And what I realized is the reason I got to the seat I was because I had this deep desire to improve the environment around me. And I got a lot of joy on helping others succeed. I already said I'm super creative, so I want people to come to me with ideas and creativity and things. If people weren't going to approach me with ideas or how I could improve the firm, then I wasn't going to really be the leader I wanted. And I realized I was fitting the narrative of what I thought everybody else thought a managing partner should be. That's how we grew up. The managing partner made all the decisions, told everybody what to do, and that was it. And so I went in to some coaching and changed my leadership style to be more authentic to me. And that was I needed to listen more. I needed to ask more questions. I still have those stickies on my computer to remind me. And I want to help other people. And so I had to find my own authentic leadership style. And if you know me, you know I love to build humor into everything that I do. And so I started to shift to be more Carla McCall and less what I thought people needed. And my leadership just soared, and it changed. And so my message really is feedback is a gift. Take time to work on yourself. And feedback never feels good, especially critical feedback never feels good. So sit with it and then just take action and don't sort of let it consume you. And you can evolve and change over your leadership journey.
I love that. I mean, feedback is a gift, right? Because it really is. Sometimes, and I learned that early. Sometimes, one place I learned to take great feedback was Toastmaster. I don't know if either of you have ever been attended Toastmaster. So they have this thing where you go to Toastmaster and you get you give a short on the spot impromptu speech, and then you get constructive feedback from folks in real time, and it's just you learn a lot so much from that. But Lexy, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I think that second to the pivotal moment of being what I said, went to a client and came back. That was certainly a pivotal moment where it really it helped me to focus on what it made me realize and taught me what I enjoy. I will say when I became a lead partner for what was then our firm's largest industry group, at the time the firm was much smaller, and if the industry groups, most of them had one partner. We were the only industry group with multiple partners, and I think there was 5 of us. We had a partner retiring. We had 2 or 3 other men, I forget now. But it wasn't easy because they felt like, well, why did she get this? And she's not my boss. And I'm like, I'm just trying to herd us together and get us to work together. And I did seek out leadership coaching. I was fortunate to have had that gift, and it is a gift, for a year. And what I realized, again, that feedback, and it was, how do I create accountability and be true to me? Because one of my problems was that I was actually the opposite of Carla. I was too nice. And I wasn't sticking up I was allowing people to hijack the meetings. I wasn't sticking to facts, which are all things that the leadership coach taught me, that I can actually create accountability and still be nice. Do you know what I mean? And be who I am. But it was too much. So it was so refreshing, and it was liberating to be able to have the tools taught to me of how to move things forward and just start to let that stuff go and not focus on it. And that what is important as a leader. And it gave me that focus and direction. And again, never looking back, and to be able to, and now I'm to the point of cut through the BS, guys. Like, this is what we're doing, and this is why we're doing it. And we get ideas, we get feedback, we do whatever we need to do. But then what are our expectations for timelines of completion, and so on and so on. So it was very helpful to get a lot of that personal piece. And each time I was able to have a successful event of whatever I was doing or in leading the group, it felt confidence. And that is such a hard thing to do. I wish I had done that coaching much earlier in my career. But the important thing is that I did. And as you take on new roles, when I was voted as managing partner and then we merged in with Aprio, I actually 6 months in asked for leadership coaching for 3 months because I knew what I needed to do. When you have a change in responsibilities, a change in role, it's huge to get a check-in. It's huge to have somebody that is outside of the organization. And if it's a coach within your organization, that's fine. But it's somebody that can help be an independent voice to guide you, to direct you, to have really difficult conversations, to hear about what you as a person need to fix. That's not easy. And I used to call it work therapy because it is. It's really hard to look within, find something that needs to be fixed, and then you're like, well, how? So, but you do, and that is something that does build a confidence then.
That's great. So I would, I mean, I love this. I think it's really important to have that, have a coach, have the mentor, and to seek guidance. But let me ask you, what about, so we have a mix of folks listening to this live program. Some folks are work in big firms and some in smaller firms, and some are students. So for those folks who might not have a paid, might not be at a platform in a place where they could have a paid program, like what are your suggestions on how they could still look for professional or career guidance?
I think you get involved with the profession. I think that's very important because it gets you outside of the walls and you hear about things that are happening. Again, we are a giving profession, and you read. There's some really good books to read. Some that are stereotyped, like Lean In is actually one of my favorites,
Hmm.
not just for women, but for men as well. And teaching and little things that are about how you even present yourself as being a seat at the table, and not. One thing that was really helpful to me was when one of our female senior managers in our text, she was wanting to get involved in some things, and there was an evening event, and I said, no, she's got 3 kids under 5. It's just going to be too much for her. And then I realized what I was doing, and I went into her office and said, I owe you an apology. Like, here I was trying to help her and I was hurting her. She should be the one to make the decision, not me, for her. So I said, hey, I'm going to ask you to do these things. And if you can't, just tell me. That's fine.
Hmm.
But it's your decision, not mine. So reading about things that you do in every day that can help you. There's also the Leadership Pipeline that I thought was a great book that talks about skills, values, and time application. That was incredibly helpful of understanding different developments. So I think reading has actually helped me a lot. I'm not an avid reader. I'll be honest. I wish I was, but there are certainly some books that gave me some nuggets that have really helped me through my career.
Well, I think, and I'll come to this at the end of this of our event today. But I think whenever I can now, I default to audiobooks. So that's why I default to audiobooks. It's
That
like,
works too.
yes. All right. So, Carla, I know, was it a year ago or 2 years ago? I don't think it was 2 years ago. A year and a half ago, you came out to, you zoomed in to speak to my student, not my students, but
Yes.
where I do graduate advice in Hunter College. You got to speak to some of those students. So I want to ask you, what advice would you give to young professionals or students, whether they're undergrads or graduate students, accounting students, that are either going into the accounting field or they're still very early in their careers?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Rumi. I love talking to the students. I've gone to several universities and I have more coming up. And when I talk about the accounting profession, I talk about the value that it has. Clients and companies need us in good times and bad. When they're making a lot of money, they need us. And when they're not doing so great, as we saw through the pandemic, we're the first phone call because we're a profession of trust. And we are the key to stability in our sort of financial economy, right? And so there's also lots of choice, right? So you could work in public, private, nonprofit, government. You could teach in academia. You could specialize in a service, audit, tax, or a specialized consulting area like forensics or valuations or sustainability. So there is just so much diversity in the profession that's amazing. But what I tell the students is that there's power in informational interviews. That is a way to just get more in depth of what does a day in the life of somebody look like? Is that something I would align with? I tell them, don't pick a job based on pay, pick it based on value alignment with the company and meaningful work. I also say you have to grant yourself grace because where you start your career isn't always where you finish your career. I started my career in tax and then ended up a nonprofit auditor, but really found where I thrived is in leadership. And so you have to grant yourself grace to try different things, to find that work that gives you meaning. Because when you find the work that gives you meaning, it really is just part of the fabric of your life and it doesn't feel like a job. It just becomes a part of who you are and what you're known for. And so, set goals, find mentors and coaches, ask for what you deserve, look for leadership opportunities, but most importantly, enjoy the journey.
Yeah, I love it. You have to enjoy the journey. That's it becomes tedious, and it becomes, the hours are long when you don't like it, and when you're just doing it for a paycheck. So it's like, don't do it for a paycheck. I mean, yes, we need a paycheck, but if you really love it and enjoy it, I do so much I love the profession so much. So for me, it's always a joy. But let's talk about some of the tools that we use in the profession. Talk about the way things are changing, innovation, technology. Lexi, do you see anything right now that's really transforming our profession in that area?
I think it's the speed of the technology is what's different. When I look back and think about over my career, just the technology changes and when you start out of college, what I was doing versus what somebody today is doing, they're very different. And the same challenge of how do you teach people to get to that point right out of school so that they can really function and work with a client, in my case, in public accounting, or in business and industry. But how do you get somebody up to speed faster? That's no different. That's been there the entire time. I do think the speed of the technology adaptation is what's changing. We need to be transforming how we are doing what we're doing at a much faster pace. I think traditionally our profession doesn't like to move fast. It tends to be cautious. And that needs to change. We need to move faster. And Carla's all over this one, so I'm actually going to hand that over to her. She'll say it much better than I will.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've been what started my effort in driving innovation here at AICPAs was listening to Barry talk 6 years ago about how blockchain was going to replace the audit. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're 60% assurance in our firm. This is going to, and so I take the videos back and I'm scaring my partners. And that's what created our tech team. And we have an in-house team that is dedicated to automation, AI, Gen AI use cases. They're not straddled with the billable hour, which I absolutely hate, if you know me. So you need people who can do R&D, right? They're going to try stuff, build use cases. Some stuff's going to work, some stuff's not. And you need a strategy around technology adoption. But to Lexi's point about how fast it's moving, right? That was blockchain. Well, blockchain's taking a back seat to Gen AI at the moment. And I don't think our profession has harnessed the power of bot technology. So we have people on our team that write bots. So we have we're deep in automation, where instead of people that are retyping financial statements into a government website, right, 3 to 4 hours per gets reviewed, a bot does that now, and we're just reviewing it. We save like 3 to 4 hours per financial statement of human time, right? We have bots that help us in our data analysis of risk assessment, where we used to have to ingest the data and manipulate it and then run the tests and then fill out the work paper. It's all done by a bot now. You ingest the data, but it reformats it, runs all the tests, fills out the work paper. You see it going. So there's lots of opportunities for automation. And my fear is that a lot of us in the profession have sort of jumped over and sort of forgot about automation to really harness the power of Gen AI. And Gen AI is about, it's going to take some time, right? We have to figure out, first of all, we need cultures of responsible AI. We need data integrity. I don't know about you guys, but we had to clean up our whole data set in our firm. You need one single source of truth. And so it's an evolution. Automation can give you some early wins now while you're working on how to implement AI and Gen AI. Though there's a lot more products to choose from now in the market, you can get almost lost in all of the new products that are out there that claim they're going to change your life, and they're doing all these things. So having a multidisciplinary team around the table, no matter where you sit, to think about technology, where should we go, where's the biggest bang for our buck, and then have a filter across how you're going to look at products, and then build a strategy around that with a constant cadence of check-ins, I think is really important. But we're in, I tell the students, we're in the most exciting time in our profession since I've been sitting in it, because there is so much opportunity, not only for transformation, for us to work smarter, not harder, using technology, but for young people to lead. We have people very early in their careers, 3 to 5 years, that are leading technology initiatives here. They've grown up with it. They're savvy. They understand it. They understand how to plug it into the work. And so there's just so much leadership, so many more leadership opportunities than when I was coming up through the profession.
Yeah, I agree. I think that today's with the use of the technology that people can jump into that advisory role that they want so desperately much faster because of that, that you're not doing the process of it. Then I do think as a profession that that firms are taking a step back and saying, okay, let's assess exactly what the process that Carla just talked about is, that they are being more deliberate as opposed to reactive, which is good to see. Because I do think we need guardrails, because you don't want bad information getting out there or using bad information and doing your job.
Mm.
So it's good to see guardrails starting to be in place.
And I've had, there's some questions coming through I see on mentors. I've had some people that have seen people speak, have seen me speak and have sent me a LinkedIn thing. I don't know of anyone who would say, no, I don't want to talk to you. Put a time limit on it if you're looking for some advice or whatever. Can I have 20 minutes of your time? Or, so they know, and everybody wants to help other people succeed.
Yes.
So look for those opportunities for those in your organization, or if you're still in college, look for the opportunities to do those informational interviews. I'm actually going to speak to the AICPA's university ambassadors on a global stage. So they're academic ambassadors around the world, about how they can help students not only understand our profession, but get connected to people where they can find out more about what it's like to be X, what it's like to be Y, and then they can sort of figure out what they align with.
Yeah, I agree. All details to everything that you guys have said. It's all so important. So with that, I use technology a lot. I use both automation as well as Gen AI. But those things are great. So it's really important that when we're bringing new people in, we're giving them the correct onboarding, right? We're onboarding them properly and training them how to use the stuff, all of those tools. Because if they don't, right, they will be, like you said, you don't want bad data. So what is there a best practice that you would say for either of you for on how to make sure that that our talents, that our staff, that they're well trained in this area?
Well, I think
Well,
training is key. Go ahead,
go ahead,
Carla.
Lex.
I do think the training is key, regardless. I mean, we can use technology as much as we want, but we need a person to take a look at it and make sure it looks, does it smell right? Does it look okay? Um, and it's not just that, but it's also an analysis that comes out with the data. What does that mean? What's the relationship between this and this? And does that make sense? So we absolutely still need people to work with the technology, but I think training is really the big piece of it. And as I was alluding to earlier, I think one of the big gaps that we have today that many of us are struggling with is, how do you get somebody from out of college right now to where they get to that point as quickly as possible? Because the firms need it and the individuals need it as well. And that's still something we're figuring out, I think.
Yes, absolutely. So with that, let's talk about some of the careers, rather the challenges in our career, in our profession, right? The innovation, it's a great opportunity for us to leverage and reshape our profession. But we also know that we have some challenges that, and we can turn them into opportunities, right? So would you say are some of the challenges we're currently facing in the profession?
How much time you got, Arume? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, we did. Yes.
Listen, digital transformation is top of the list, right? Finding and retaining talent, right? So we're just going through this evolution of adding a new pathway. My passion is not about really focusing on that top of the funnel, but it's the middle, right? That's where when you go and talk to leaders and where they need the talent, it's never, oh, I need them right out of school. It's like, I need them with experience. And so we're not retaining them in the profession. So I really am passionate about talking about business model transformation. And this is not just firms. This is finance departments and governments and anybody who's sitting in the profession, and including academia. They have to keep an external view to know how we're working in order to inspire the next generation, so we don't have the drop off from sophomore year to junior year, that they understand the value of it. And so I think that we need to really just change the way we work. We need to have more balance. We need to create human first cultures. We need to promote the work that we do, because we help clients solve complex problems, plan for the future, reduce taxes, change their business models, go through an acquisition or a merger. I mean, there's so much exciting work that we do, and we don't promote it enough. So we've been doing highlight reels, not only of our staff as to how they found their meaningful work inside our company, but also in client projects. We do highlight reels of some cool projects that we're working on. A lot of those tend to be tech oriented, and just promoting it. And so for me, it's, those are really the biggest areas that I think the association is doing a good job trying to get us to think about. I know the PCPS, we talk about the private company practice section, part of the AICPA has so many amazing toolkits for smaller businesses, and in order to think about how they can approach this sort of business model evolution. And anyways, I think and just my role at AICPAs, we were very much, when I stepped into a role in 2011, a very traditional firm. Managing partner told everybody what to do, and that's what they did, right? And we were 38 years old and 16 million in revenue. And I set out to create a human first culture, because we were very much client first, firm second, and that's debatable. I get people that tell me it's firm and client, client firm, however you look at it. And then we were third, and we didn't talk about personal lives. We didn't bring that to the office. Everything was hidden. And I wanted to flip that script to be people first, client second, firm third. Because if you have happy people, you have happy clients, the firm will be successful. And that has proven true in our firm, where we've grown from 16 million in 2011, and we closed last year at 73 million. And that's all organic. It's not M&A. So culture matters. And I think that will have the biggest impact on retaining people and attracting people in our profession. That and increasing starting salaries. But anyways.
That is so true. All true. Culture matters. Increasing salary matters. I'm glad you mentioned the PCPS, transform your business model too. So anybody that wants, whether it's help with technology or talent, strategizing, we have a lot of resources at the AICPA PCPS section, so please check it out. But you also mentioned talent, so maybe Lexy, would you mind updating us, like what as to the how is the AICPA addressing the pipeline challenge issue?
Yeah, so right now, really, as a result of the National Pipeline Advisory Group, the report that was put together, they are actually, which has led to where we are now of this creation of another pathway to CPA and propose modified language to the UAA to make that happen, or to help that happen. But it's also like, the biggest challenge I think that we do have is what Carla talked about. It's with the firms, because we do need to recognize work-life balance, and that war on talent, that war is over and talent won. So people can say whatever they want to say, but we need to figure out how to adapt the balance, what people need to be productive. The other thing I will say is that we talk about hours, and there's a lot of hours that get worked, but we're passionate. If you enjoy what you do, you don't notice hours. You figure it out. You figure out what works for this time of year or doesn't work, and you adjust accordingly. I mean, I use the example of students that are in high school. What if they play a sport? Aren't they doing hours and on end of practice and games and then their homework and their schoolwork? They're still trying to fit all that in, and then time with their friends, because they're passionate about what they do. So I think that makes a difference. But looking at some of those things, working with academia, and when we talk about what we need our students to be doing, changing what they're teaching and how they are teaching it. Right? Instead of weeding out students, we're pulling them through and helping them through the classes for them to understand, doing more of simulations about what it's really like, as opposed to what's a debit, what's a credit, what's a T-value thing, whatever it's called. I forget now. Anyway, really changing that to engage the students. And it's really focusing on underserved communities, where a lot of them don't know what a CPA is. And we all need to get out to those communities and educate them. There's a program with the Center for Audit Quality where they actually are doing targeted social media for individuals to celebrate what we do as a profession. You should check out their website. What the programming they're doing is really wonderful and amazing. And we all need to change the words that we use to describe what we do, right? I don't want to hear people talking about all these hours I have to work in tax season. Well, what did you do though? Maybe you helped a client that was going through a transaction and selling their business, and that business was their biggest asset. And you help them to get through that, navigate it tax effectively, and then help them with estate planning. And then you help them with the wealth management piece of it. Wow, did you make a difference in the life of your client? That's what you need to be talking about, not the hours.
I love that.
I hate hours. We need to get rid of hours. When you're talking about business model transformation, we're smart people. Figure out how to measure people on output, not input.
Yes.
Hours are never real. They're either padded or they're not put in. And you have inefficient hours, and people get lauded for their high hours, even though they're the most inefficient person. It's terrible. So we just need to change that conversation altogether.
Yeah.
I know. And one other terminology that I've heard you, Carla, say that we should change is how did you put it? Busy season. You don't want to call it busy season, right? Tax season.
I hate that term. Yes. And you know what? When is busy season? Because I'm not a tax person, and we have people who are, working more for their client in any time of the year. Especially focus on nonprofits is very different than commercial, and then you have specialty groups, and it's not one size. I hate one size fits all, and I hate mandates. If you've heard me speak, I've said that till I'm blue in the face. We have in our written vision plan to not rely on the billable hour, that we're going to find ways. So we're piloting now different things with different small groups on new KPIs in order to manage utilization. You have to, in a firm, you have to manage utilization or you're dead in the water, right? And so how do we do that without the terrible crutch that we've had in our profession of the billable hour? And so we're going to crack that code, and then, I'm going to go around and teach everybody how to do it.
Carl has a good point about this busy season and defining it, by the way.
Mhm.
The pandemic happened at the end of busy season. Think about what we all went through when the pandemic hit, right? I mean, that was all of uncertainty. And now we have executive orders that are impacting certainly government contractors, not-for-profit clients, some of our own organizations. That's pulling us in. And that has nothing to do with busy season. It has to do with uncertainty in the marketplace. And I don't care what firm you are or what you do, you're going to be impacted by this stuff. That's going to have some impact to it that we can't control, and we can't. Friends, in the life of your client, or the life of
professional services,
the investor community, whatever it is that you do, you're making a difference.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
That's great. Yeah, and show the impact that we're having. I love that. So talking about COVID, right? The pandemic. So now there's this government mandates. A lot of government workers they've been asked to go back to work maybe 5 days a week. So what do you see? I know, Carla, at your firm, you guys are 100%. Are you 100% remote? Do you guys, or do you have any hybrid workers, or it's all?
We're work from anywhere is what we call it. So people have their choice. I have people, not a lot, maybe 10, that come into an office every day out of 350. So we have a lot of empty space, but we're work from anywhere. So we have staff in between 20 and 25 states, and it's about communication, commitment, monitoring. We're trying different things to make sure that people are learning at the pace that they should be learning. We've created some new programs we're piloting to get more engagements. And strengthen the relationships. It's definitely different, and it's a lot more work to maintain culture and to make sure people are learning and to have candid communication. But we could do it. We're not going back to office mandates. I think I think it's crazy that people want a button a seat just to feel like they're working. They can be on their socials at their desk just as easy as they can be at home. And we're in a profession where, at least for the client-facing team members, it's hard to hide. You have to deliver for an owner, a board, there's products, someone has to review it. Everybody has access to binders to say, there is, it's really hard to hide for long in our profession. And so the fact, you just have to have the right onboarding, the right expectation setting. You have to find people with the sort of intellectual curiosity, a little bit of grit, and then talk about how valuable the flexibility is in a work from anywhere. But there's a commitment and a personal responsibility to make sure that you're effective. And I tell everybody who comes into this firm, because I meet with all our new hires every year, anytime they're coming in, they have a meeting with me, that a work from anywhere environment is a privilege, and that you have to have, it's a two-way street, and there is a personal responsibility. And here are the things that you could do to make sure that you're successful. Oh, you're mute.
I don't think we lost you. Your sound.
I was asking Lexy, is your firm, are you guys also are you hybrid or fully remote?
We are now 3 days in the office or at a client side, basically 3 days out of your home, unless you were already designated remote, which some people absolutely are remote. They're nowhere near an office.
So yeah.
And I think that I actually would slightly disagree with Carla on this, from that I think that 5 days a week is not necessary at all. But fully remote, I think, can be challenging, from people learning and developing, building client relationships. Being out at a client when you're doing an audit and asking questions, you read body language much better in person than you do through the remote. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be exactly 3 days a week. There could be some weeks where maybe you're out or you're at home 5 days for that week, and there's others where you're out 1, right? So, but we're experimenting and starting someplace with it. But I do not think that 5 days a week makes sense. Living in a big city, we live right side of Washington, D.C., there's commutes and traffic, and we need to balance that as well with productivity. And so I think to some extent it depends. I think we're still figuring it out. But I do think that the pendulum went from one extreme to the other, and we need to find where that middle is. I'm not sure where that is on the spectrum, and maybe it is somewhere depending on the individual. Depending on the team, depending on the work that you're doing, depending on the time of year. I don't think that people need to be in the office maybe 3 days a week in July when your industry group isn't as busy as it usually is, So I think, you know what? Common sense. Just need to figure it out.
That always works. Common sense.
This is more complicated. And for me, it's this or that, and it can't be.
For me, it's intentional time. And to come sit in an office around a table, I just don't think when someone commutes, what you hear is, they made me go out to a client for 2 hours. I had to sit in a car. And then we just sat in a conference room and there was no interaction with the client, whatever. If you can, and it's not just because we're work from anywhere doesn't mean we're never at a client site. It's just more, we're there when it makes sense. There's a lot of compliance. Maybe the client has paper or whatever, but it has to be meaningful or the people will get frustrated.
I do agree with that.
So talking about folks getting frustrated, we previously alluded to the quote unquote work hours and the long hours. So how do you stay rejuvenated, and how do you how do you avoid burnout? Are you going horseback riding? Are you bungee jumping or like doing something? Like, what do you do to stay fresh and on top of things?
It would never be bungee jumping. For me.
Now it's spending time with a new baby.
Yes, because I can give them back. That's what's nice right now. For my new granddaughter, who was here last night. I would figure out ways to do things with the kids. Like I was talking about this last night, which is why it's more top of mind, but I would do things that make a difference for the kids. Again, loving to bake was making rolls for my daughter for peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but I would make them for the entire month and put them in freezer bags take them out Sunday nights, and she'd have homemade rolls for her lunches, but I would just make it once. And same thing with meals and things like that. But I also find that different points in your life, it needs to be different depending what is going on in your life as well. But having that flexibility to do whatever is one of the things I love about this profession, is that whatever life throws at you, and sometimes it feels like it's enough what it's throwing at you, that you have the flexibility and you have a team in place that we take care of each other and we all figure it out and we get through it. Like, that's what it's about. We take care of each other. So I don't know if I answered the question. I think I sidetracked a little bit there.
What about you, Carla? How do you stay rejuvenated?
Well, our family's a big travel family, so we like to travel to different parts of the world. So when we have family time, that's what we do. I really make time for my Peloton, as I said, and working from home makes that whole lot easier to prioritize my own self-care, which I haven't done very well over the course of my career, but am much better at it now that I have the flexibility. I don't really enjoy coming into the office, to be honest. So I don't know how I could mandate the rest of the firm when I'm so effective working sometimes elsewhere, and sometimes with this role, it's other parts of the world. So, but yeah, it's travel and reading and exercise, I would say.
And when I have a lot going on, I build in time to go to the spa.
Yes.
Yeah, there you
It's
go.
my thing, and what was really a funny story about this is when I first got elected onto the board for Aronson before we had merged many years ago, we were walking out and the partner meeting where I was voted in, and the other men partners, I think I was the third female partner to ever be on the board. And they said, well, that's great. We always do a golf outing to welcome in the new person, but but you're new. You pick what we do. I go, great, spa day. I just walked away, and their mouths dropped. They had no idea how to respond to that. And I'm like, I don't golf. I have no interest to do that. Let's go to the spa. And we never did. But the point was, the point though is I made a point.
You did. That's great. Well, I love this conversation, but we've been having lots of comments in the chat box and questions. So I just want to put this question out there. Would either of you like to take this? What are some common mistakes new CPAs make, and how can I avoid them as I start in my career? That's from Ima.
I think some people in our profession undervalue human relations. And having high EQ and self-awareness is one of the important skills to build high-performing teams. And you cannot advance to leadership if you're not good in human relations and building and developing others and communication. So for me, it's focusing on those success skills that sometimes they get lost in our journeys of technical, compliance.
Yeah, it's a stereotype that we've created for ourselves. We are a people business.
Yes.
We work with people. That's what we do. We just may use numbers as in our product, but we work with people.
And never go to somebody with a problem without a potential solution.
Yes, absolutely. There's so many takeaways from this conversation. I saw one from Lance that says should become a member of your state society.
Yes.
If you are looking for a way to get involved,
Absolutely.
you should definitely do that. But yes, so lots of great takeaways. There is another question. Where is it? There you go. What's an effective way to delegate tasks and responsibilities effectively within your team?
I think you have to create accountability with it.
Mm-hmm.
And you also need to take the time to teach them, right? Sometimes they need to be taught how to do it, and whatever that may be, but also put in check on them. You got to give them a time frame. Here's what you need to do. Here's what I need. Does that sound okay? Get the buy-in beforehand, expectations for it. And I find accountants tend to be control freaks, if you haven't noticed. That's when I became the most effective at delegating, because I was committed to a work-life balance for myself. And I became really good at delegating because of that. And I'm very organized. I think you have to be organized to be able to delegate effectively as well.
Awesome. I agree with that. So as we wind down, time flies when you're having fun, right? We're almost at the top of the hour. So I just want to ask you ladies, what are your thoughts about what legacy do you think you're going to leave behind, or do you want to leave behind as leaders at AICPA and at your firms as well?
Yeah, I think what I have been successful at here in my firm, but also sort of promoting around the profession, which I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, is about just the way that I have thought differently about creating a human first culture. Open calendars, open scheduling of self-care time, acknowledging life outside of work, being flexible and treating people like professionals. And so I want to, I'm hoping that I'll be known as sort of a trailblazer and just making it okay to have those conversations. being okay to be human in our profession, calling out bias and old thinking when I see it. And so, that's kind of what I want accounting to get back to the top choice for students.
Mm-hmm.
And we're modeling increasing our starting pay to help that cause, but I really want to promote it so it's a top choice career, which will continue after my chairmanship of May.
Of course. Yeah. I love it. Lexy.
I think I go back to when I had this first round of leadership coaching, and you had to make your declaration as a leader and who you are. And it's always been about people for me. And my leadership statement is who I am as a leader is an inspiration to people exploring the unthinkable, thinking outside of the box, thinking differently, making a difference. It's so rewarding to make a difference with the people that you work with and to see them excel in their careers. I just recently had one of my work daughters take the Mid-Atlantic leader role that I had, and to see it be her into that role, and to see her just like, man, she should have taken that over a while ago. She's doing such a great job. But it's just so rewarding. And I think it's that you made a difference in the lives of your people you work with inside the firm as well as outside of the firm. That's important to me. It's about people.
Awesome. So let's get one more question before I do my get to our round robin of questions, which I usually do. So this is from Zoe. As female leaders in accounting, how do you encourage and empower women in your firm to take ownership of revenue generation, whether through client development, strategic partnership, or expanding service offerings? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I would say whether it's men or women on this one, you introduce them to your relationships. You take them not just to your relationships, but you take them to a lunch meeting and you tell who you've known for 15 years, bring your next person to this lunch. And you start making the introductions for them to do it. And how did I do it? By getting involved in committees in different organizations that supported the industry that I worked in. I don't work a room. That's not what I do. But I went to committees and made relationships. When you're in the big room, then you know people and they introduce you to who you're talking to. So all these little tricks of the trade, so to speak, where people are very intimidated by that, it's actually just being good at what you do. Clients will refer you to other clients, but being a part of the business community, because it changes the conversation as well that you have with a client. And that there's so many levels to that, but those are just some examples of areas that have worked pretty successfully.
Yeah, I'll say it's not one size fits all. Not everybody is meant to be a revenue generator. But if they do have the desire and the wherewithal, start them young and plot them in where it's not what I did. You have to find out where your strengths are. So some people get business by just being out and teaching and speaking because they're very geared toward academia or whatever. And then some people do want to work a room or meet with the same people, centers of influence. There's lots, more than one road to Rome. Is that the saying? Yeah. So if you and then have a sponsor, someone who's going to help you get to your goal. And I've just found with women, we just have less confidence. We think we're bragging if we talk about ourselves and what we do. And it took me a strong mentor to teach me to value my own worth. And so I try and pay that forward to other people when I see it. I just happen to see it more in women than men, but it would apply to anybody.
Awesome. Thank you for getting that in. So let's end with a fast round robin. So short answers or one word or two words responses. This is from one of my favorite interviewer, James Lipton, a twist on his interview questions. So what is your favorite word, Carla?
Can I swear? Never mind. Gratitude.
All right, Lexy.
Love.
Ooh, love that. Mine is yes. What is your least favorite word?
Feisty.
Feisty. Woo.
Only because somebody called me that once, literally in the last 6 months at a council meeting. And it really was just rubbed me the wrong way. Anyways.
Okay. All right. Lexy, do you have one?
No.
That's mine as well. I love that. Love it. All right. What was the last movie you saw, Lexy?
The last what?
Movie.
Oh, geez.
You haven't been to the movies in a while, huh?
Last movie theater I went to, it was Barbie with my daughter.
That's a good
Yeah, I
one.
think the last movie theater was Bridesmaids. And I ran into one of my bridesmaids who I hadn't seen in like 15 years at the movie theater, at the movies.
Nice,
So
nice. Well,
I
the
think that
last
or a
movie
Harry Potter movie would have been in a movie theater. I tend to watch them more when they're out.
when they're out,
Yeah,
yeah. The
yeah.
last movie theater I went to, I saw Wicked that came out over the
Oh, I've heard
holidays.
that's
So,
really good.
yeah. What about the last book you read?
The last book I read was personal. It was called The Anxious Generation, How Social Media Has Caused a Mental Health Crisis in Children in this country. And it is data-driven and absolutely amazing if you deal with anybody in your inner circle with anxiety.
Oh, nice one.
I don't remember the title of it, and it wasn't that good because I didn't finish it. How's that? I'm being honest. I actually just took several work professional reads into the office where we have like a bookshelf, people
Right.
want to grab a book. And I took it in there. It was one that's more of like, I think for college, like case study type things, but had some interesting concepts in there though.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So mine was a book someone recommended to me by Terry Cole called Boundary Boss, all about making sure you're setting good boundaries. And everybody needs. Sometimes we think we know how to do it, but there's always some folks who find a way to get around your boundaries. So I had a lot of nice tips on how to stand stay your ground. So one more thing: what profession other than yours would you have? If you were to have had any other profession other than being a CPA, what would that have been?
For me, it would have been marketing and communications. I would have either been doing voiceovers or a news anchor.
Okay. Got it.
I would have opened a bakery with comfort food desserts.
Ooh, love it. And I would come to your bakery and I would eat a lot because I love
Not
sweet.
the fancy stuff. The good
doesn't
stuff.
matter. For me, it doesn't have to be fancy. As long as it's baked, I'm eating it.
Yeah.
All right. So any final thoughts that you guys would like to share with our audience today?
No, just keep paying it forward, promote the profession. Don't be afraid to ask for informational interviews, find mentors. It's amazing. And we're in this together. So keep going.
Absolutely in this together. And one of the advice somebody gave me before I had to speak in front of the firm, I was nervous about speaking in front of people I know. He said, just be yourself. And it's so simple. Just stay true to who you are. You absolutely can do that and enjoy this profession and make a difference in this profession. So please do.
Be yourself.
I was going to be posting something on this.
I know. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's great.
I can just repost. She'll take care of it. Delegation. See?
Automation. That's right. Automation. This has just been a fabulous conversation. I do not want the hour to end. Unfortunately, we have to end. So this concludes our fireside chat. So, by the way, next month is Women's History Month. So if you know of a female leader or any female a male leader as well, you would like to hear from on the next LinkedIn fireside chat, let me know and I'll do my best to make it happen. I want to thank our speakers today, Carla McCall and Lexy Kessler. Thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.